Hello, Libra, and welcome to Indigo Rising Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day. This will be your weekly reading for the week of October 26th through November 1st, and during that time, we will have a waxing crescent moon at first, and we've got a few different moon phases. Waxing crescent is a good time of heightened senses, good time to just really work on those things that you've started with the new moon. We then have a first quarter moon that comes in 29th or 30th, might be a couple of days of this energy, which is definitely kind of like full moon, but a little bit less, but it's definitely where you might feel impulsive or impatient, or your mind is a little bit active. So either manage that energy well, or use that energy, for something positive. Also, we then move into the waxing gibbous energy on the 31st and the 1st, and that is a little bit calmer, a good time for a deeper understanding, a good time to demonstrate flexibility, kind of make adjustments on things that you're working on. So please keep those moon energies in mind as we move through the week. This will be an intuitive general reading for the energies that you may or may not encounter, Libra. So as always, please take what resonates and leave what doesn't for someone else. And your overall message for this reading: adjustments are required. So that's perfect for that waxing crescent phase. I mean waxing gibbous phase. That's a good time to make adjustments. So awesome. Love that. Make adjustments. Let's see where the Libra collective needs to make those types of adjustments. So as I'm shuffling, my fun reminder this week, Libra, is that you take the time to learn something new this week. A lot of times as adults, sometimes we get out of school and we forget, like, oh, we can learn new things. So, especially like a deep dive. I feel like I'm learning new trivial things every day, really. um you're reading and hearing podcast or things like that, just pick up on a little thing here or there. But to really deep dive and focus on something, I know for myself, I have to really be very super intentional about that. So I'm asking you to do that this week. Find a thing that you've been somewhat interested in and just do a deep dive. Take a few hours, maybe stop at the library, get a book or two on the topic. And it could be anything under the sun, just something a little deeper. And I just want you to, that's kind of your homework this week, is to just learn something and take a little more time, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and really absorb the thing and just enjoy learning. So that is my fun weekly reminder for you this week. All right, let's get into this reading, Libra, October 26th through November 1st. Adjustments are required. Let's see on what. Your present overall energy right now is the Queen of Swords. So you're sitting in a very logical energy. Our Queen of Swords is not only very logical, but she does not hold back. She says exactly what's on her mind, and that's great. She's very direct and just states the obvious, most logical thing. So that's a great energy to be into. Your current situation is the Fool card. So you're on some sort of new journey, and you're going to take this logic uh, and forward way of speech with you. So that's a nice little skill to have in your pocket there. At the root of your situation is the Five of Pentacles. So there's something that's had you kind of feeling a little bit like an outsider, but it's pushing you onto this new journey. I mean, this could be anything. I've dealt with this card a little bit this month already. This is a card of Pentacles. So, I will first say that sometimes this is about being just a financial outsider, feeling like you don't have enough money, or feeling like there's some sort of lack. But I also kind of can see this card sometimes as being the comparison card, like that we have to examine, why do you feel like an outsider? And sometimes it is comparison, that you're comparing yourself to someone online or someone that you know in person, and to anything. It could be, oh, they have more money, they have a nicer car, they have a nicer house, they have the whatever, when the material realm, right? And comparison is the thief of joy. So first, try not to do that. So the bigger question is to ask yourself, why would you be making that comparison? And what is it about your life that you feel is lacking? Okay. So that if you're making that comparison, it's making you feel bad. Only you can take the reins to change your financial situation by creating a budget, sticking to it, saving money, doing things like that. or your housing situation, same deal. These are long-term decisions that you make that you can eventually change your situation so that you're not comparing yourself to others because you're exactly where you want to be. So, with this Fool card, this is maybe about stepping onto a new journey about that, about not comparing and just really just writing out a plan so that you can get from point A to point B, within a certain amount of months so that you're not comparing, so that you're just as happy as the next guy, right? What is just behind you is the Six of Cups, which, in your recent past here, it could be that you were making a comparison to someone from your past, someone from your childhood. And again, I think the online thing has really amped this up where what do they say? That people online are showing you their highlight reel, right? So not everybody's life is as perfect as it seems. In fact, I guarantee you nobody's life is perfect because that's not why we're here. So if someone is really putting off that perfect vibe, and it could be someone from your past, someone from your childhood, don't worry. It's not as perfect as it appears. And you need to just scooch back over, kind of observe, okay, that's where they are now. Where am I? And let's focus on what you're doing and the things that you need to work on. What is on your mind this week is the Ace of Pentacles. So maybe it is about money and maybe it is about material things. But here comes the Ace of Pentacles, which is kind of a new financial opportunity for you. So, and that's what I'm saying about scooch back over in your lane. And when you start to focus on the things that you want and you start to make a plan, then maybe this new financial opportunity is a raise at work. Maybe it is a promotion at work. Maybe it is one of your side things that you do that starts bringing in money for, maybe you have an Etsy shop where you make widgets and all of a sudden those widgets take off and everybody wants one, so that's why, to make sure that focus, if we're spending time focusing on others or making those comparisons, you have less time to focus on your path and what, the things that you need to be doing. So make sure you're focusing that energy. And again, your overall card was adjustments are required. And maybe that's it. It's just about kind of keeping that focus on you, your life, your family, and how you want to move forward. What is just ahead of you is the Temperance card, one of my favorite cards in the deck, because this is a card of being inspired, inspiration. If the Devil card is the devil on one shoulder, this is the angel on the other side. That's definitely telling you, be inspired. Fulfillment is just around the corner for you. Be centered, be calm. This is about being inspired, and whatever you find, the things that inspire you, and move towards that instead of like those detractors like the devil would be. But I love having the angel on your shoulder way more than the devil. In your advice position here, Libra, is the Hierophant card, which is about seeking guidance. And a lot of times this can be in the spiritual realm, but it's also in kind of the maturity and who's around you that knows more than you, that you can get advice from. It might be why you're at a tarot reading right now. You may be thinking, what am I doing here on this new journey, and how am I going to do this? So you might have looked up a tarot reading, let's consult that. And that's great. I listen to tarot readings also. So, and read my own cards, but, your advice is to go ahead and seek that guidance and that counsel. And if we are talking about a material thing, then there's always, anytime we need to know something, there's always someone around us that knows that thing and has learned that thing. And sometimes it just takes sitting with them, talking with them, to find out information. How do I learn more about, and if in this case, again, if it's something material, then there's always someone around you that knows more, and take the time to ask them and listen to them as well. All right, what is beyond your control this week is some truth here with the Justice card. So this is a card of perfect order. This is a card of virtue. This is the card of equilibrium. So that's kind of beyond your control this week, that things will be that way. I love how both of these cards here are looking directly at you. Seek wisdom, seek truth. Love that. Listen to this angel. All right. What is your secret desire, or what you're trying to avoid? Well, I hope you're trying to avoid it, because this is kind of our card of sadness and grief. And maybe, again, maybe if you were feeling like an outsider and it brought you to that place and you're thinking, you know what? I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel bad about where I am in my life because I'm comparing myself to someone from my childhood or someone from my earlier years. Because again, if you maybe you're seeing their highlight reel, or maybe if you ran into them in person, of course, people tell you what they want you to know. They don't tell you everything sometimes. So maybe they just told you all the most awesome things, but not the not so great things. That's just the way it happens. So I'm sure this is something you're trying to avoid, is trying to just avoid that little pinch of sadness there. In your outcome position is the Two of Swords. So you might get into a place this week by the end of this where you're making these adjustments, but you might not want to make big decisions just yet because you're kind of still contemplating these things and you're on this new journey. And maybe you do want to think about things and just be a little bit more cautious about taking first steps until you really think things through. So sometimes it's okay to not make a decision. There's no rush on anything with life, and it's okay to mull things over. You don't have to make quick decisions. If you have someone who wants you or pressures you to make a quick decision, I would always question that, because if there's a decision and it seems harder than most and you want to think it through, take your time and think things through. That's how you'll be more comfortable moving through life in that manner. So let's see what's hidden from you this week, Libra. Hidden from you is the Knight of Wands. So this would be, some action on something that you're very passionate about. And again, you may be thinking this through because, it looks like you're mulling something over, and that's okay. You don't have to take very quick steps. You may be very careful on this new journey. Look at the dog, reminding the fool that, hey, you are on a cliff and you're not really paying attention there. Are we just going to dive on off? So take a breath, take that time to mull over those decisions. And if you don't make a decision this week on something, it's fine. It'll be there next week. So I feel like that's okay. And that's something you need to hear, is that it's okay to think about things before you jump into making a decision. I think, Libra, you guys can be a little bit indecisive anyway, but you'll get there, and that's okay. That's something that's not a negative. It just takes you longer to make a decision. So that's fine. All right, let's get a final word here from the Soul Oracle deck. Be creative is what the Soul Oracle deck says. So in whatever this is for you, be creative. I like that you're making adjustments, and maybe they're different adjustments than you've made before, and be creative about it. But you also want to have some sort of stick to it. Be creative, but stick to the thing that you're being creative about. All right, what do you need to do in the way of self-care? Self-care for Libra this week. Self-care, and the card that comes up for you is the card called Choice. Worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. I love this card. And here, we were just talking about this. Worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. So, when it comes to different choices that you're making, some Libras will go to the right, some will go to the left. And that's okay. That's why there's really no wrong or right decisions. There's different paths that you take and different outcomes. And sometimes we can't see what those outcomes are, but it's okay to take that breath, make a decision, and then the outcome is what it is. And you may later down the line, maybe you would make a different decision. That's just the way life is. Sometimes things work out a certain way, and sometimes you make that decision, and then later you get the chance to kind of make it again and go a different route and try a different route. It's okay. You're on this new journey. And really, what is it? It's enjoy the journey. Life is about the journey. It's not about the destination. So Libra, I really appreciate your time here with me today. I hope there was something in this reading that you can take away and use. I mean, you're definitely on some sort of new path here. Again, it looks like it could be material or financial, but make sure you're listening to that positive angel that's sitting on your shoulder that's telling you those positive messages. I love that. Watch the universe for synchronicities and that sort of thing to kind of guide you if you're unsure. And it's okay to take time to make decisions. So, if you're comfortable sharing Libra, drop me a comment down below. Let me know what it is that you guys are going through. What are you trying to change? What is this new journey for you? It could be different and I'm sure it is different for each of you. But I'd be curious to hear what that might be. Also, if you like my reading style, please hit the like and subscribe button. No, not only does it help me out a lot, it really, pushes my newer YouTube channel out into the algorithm, which I appreciate, but it'll help you find me next week where you can come back and we can see where this story goes. So, Libra, thank you so much for being here with me, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.